You guys ready? The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon in accordance with the provisions of the Act. The B.O.E. Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to Town Clerk, Town of Belvidere, January 15th, 2018. Please rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gorham?
Here.
Mrs. Bikina? Here. Dr. Suffolk?
Here.
Mr. Lamar?
Here.
Mr. Bishop?
Here.
Mr. Matlock?
Here.
Mr. McInerney?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Steffen?
Here.
Our White Township representatives.
So, welcome to the Belvidere Board of Education.
Thank you.
We're glad that you, thank you for your service. You serve on 2 boards now, and
Yes.
God bless you. We're going to have a brief executive session. We normally don't do that at the beginning of a meeting. We have something that's very time sensitive. I promise you, we're going to keep this as brief as possible. Our goal would be, what do we think? Less than 10 minutes. We have a lot of public here this evening. We don't normally like to go into executive session at the beginning of the meeting. I think those of you who turn out for regular board meetings know that's normally not what we do. However, just in terms of course of discussion for this evening, it's prudent that we go into executive session. So
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss negotiations.
we have a second. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we are amending the agenda. Thank you. It's hereby resolved, the board will now go into private session to discuss negotiations. Any discussion held by the board which not need to remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of the private session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the closed session, and we will be taking action. And we really are looking to do this in 10 minutes or less. Thank you. We reached the point in our agenda for our first public participation. Do we have any comments or questions from the public this evening?
I'm not on the agenda. My name is Elizabeth Bain. I'm with B.O.E. Professional Health Services, and I just want to say about our facility. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you, though. Could you just come a little forward, please? I apologize.
Okay. Do you want to use the microphone?
Could you repeat your name, too, please?
My name is Elizabeth Bain. I'm with B.O.E. Professional Health Services. We are a multicultural counseling facility located in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, and I just want to tell you about our facility and what we have to offer. Okay, so it'll be quick.
Sure.
Okay, so we are a multicultural counseling facility. We're located in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. We cover all of Warren County. This is Dr. Cassell, the CEO and President's 5th facility. He has one in Ewing, West Orange, Trenton, Flemington, and his newest one in Phillipsburg. And some of our specialty treatments consist of anger management, self-esteem, bullying, anxiety, depression, which I assume I think I'm having a good day, and mental health and substance abuse. We are an intensive outpatient facility, so our patients come to us 3-4 times a week, whether it's group or individual therapy. And we currently have 6 clinicians on board, a therapist, a psychiatrist, and we also do medication monitoring. We accept most private insurances, Medicare, Medicaid, and if you don't have insurance, you can talk to Dr. Cassell about a sliding scale fee. We accept children ages 4 and up to their lifespan, teenagers and adults. We provide transportation all throughout Warren County. So just to give you a typical day at Quinion, we will pick up our patients at home, work, or school, bring them to our facility, provide them with a juice and a snack, and then they'll see the therapist or the psychiatrist, and then we'll bring them home, back to school, or even to an after-school activity. So I'm very passionate about this facility. I've seen what it's done. It's so beautiful, it's warm and welcoming. Everybody that comes to the facility is part of the Quinion family. I mean, it's, you know, I might sound like a cheerleader for them, but I definitely am. And I'm going to leave my brochures somewhere. I don't know where. Should I leave them? In here?
Sure.
Huh?
Absolutely. Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm going to leave my brochures. And a lot of people ask me, Elizabeth, what exactly does Quinion mean? And I say, Quinion is Dr. Cassell's father's name. It means Day of Empowerment, and every day at Quinion is a day of empowerment. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Thank you.
Where should I leave my brochure? Just
You go right here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Heather Gasco. We're just here on behalf of student government. I don't know what you guys are doing. We just finished homecoming, so we're kind of on break right now, and then we're going to start playing football.
And also for the drama club, our show, Brothers Room Spectacular, is this weekend. We're excited.
Thank you. Yes, Gene.
As it's obvious that you know, the collective negotiations agreement between our association and the board allows you to select a different insurance plan. But that new coverage has to be equal to or better than the current coverage. We never even had a chance to request relevant information necessary to determine whether this proposed switch does comply to the equal or better provision in the CNA. Do you even have this information? Do you have a disruption report? Do you have a report of a side-by-side comparison? Do you have a comparison of providers? I haven't seen them because I didn't even know that this was going to happen until tonight. You didn't give us any of this information. I wonder if you even have it, because if you don't have it, that's pretty scary, because I don't know how you're even making the decision that this is equal to or better than what we have, as our contract says. We looked at AmeriHealth last year and we compared the providers, and they just weren't there. There was not, in Stroudsburg, there wasn't even a provider for a lot of services. So I'm completely caught off guard and completely dumbfounded that you really would not even give us a chance to look at this and just change our health care without even talking to us about it, giving us a chance to look it over. You're just gonna vote on it tonight. This is really like, this is what you think of us. Thanks.
We have other comments. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. Last year I wrote a letter when we were looking at switching to AmeriHealth, and I heard that there was going to be some talk, so I just thought maybe that's what we were going back to. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand that Hunterdon County switched to AmeriHealth, I believe, within the last 2 years. They ended up switching back because their coverage and their insurance was really, really poor. They backed out of it. They have a rating of an F for the Better Business Bureau. They have more than 81 complaints, and they have 1 star on Consumer Affairs. There's endless, like I have endless pages of things where they didn't even cover prenatal care for women as far as ultrasounds go, which they stated in their contract was part of prenatal care, and then women would go for a regular ultrasound or 12-week whatever, and they were denying it. And there's just tons of complaints about that. I understand the need to save money and to be fiscally responsible, but it's not responsible if the coverage isn't going to be worth it for everybody. And
Thank you. But yes.
Hi, I'm Rhoda Marie Scott. I've been a teacher here for 15 years.
beginning somewhere. So I just wanted to have my voice heard again.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from, yes?
My name is Sarah Chavon. I've been here since 2005. I've had many of your children. I'm double majored in chemistry and physical science. I have a certificate that is very hard to find. And the reason I'm here is because of my kids. I'm close to my kids here in this district. I love the kids. And the health insurance is part of the reason that I stay. And this will be one of the deciding factors whether I start looking in June. And I love Belvidere and I don't want to leave. But one of the reasons I stay and am not taken up by these headhunters is because of the fact that I'm close and here and I love the students. And this kind of balances that out somewhat.
Any other comments from the public?
Yeah, I'm Lauren Smith. I know some of you are special ed teacher here. I've been here for 16 years. I drive 40 plus minutes each way. I've done it for coaching, for various things, and I really love the school. And I think a lot of the faces here have been here 10 plus years because we love it. And what other people, what you're going to hear, what other people want to say, like, this is embarrassing to come up here and, like, I'm going to talk about my health issue or two, but it's kind of embarrassing that I have to. But our health insurance is one of the greatest things that we have, and you know, we just do so much for our kids. I feed them, I clean up their lockers, and it just makes me feel good that you guys want to give us the best health care. So like, I'm 41 years old, and I had to go to 6 endocrinologists in the past year, and I finally got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I feel like I also wrote a letter, so I have done extensive research in American Health. And I would not have been afforded that opportunity to go to all those 6 individuals, and I might not have been diagnosed with diabetes, and I could continue living sick. Also, you know, if I needed to switch doctors or I needed more care, American Health does not provide that for me. We do have a group of people who live in Pennsylvania, and that's really where it's not great in general from everything I've read and talked about with my colleagues. But the people who live in Pennsylvania are really going to get hit the hardest. And I'm sorry I have to come up here and talk about my health problems, and it's embarrassing. And also fertility. I'll never forget when my son is also in vitro. I sat down. I mean, we did have to pay, you know, $10,000 out of our own pocket. But the woman said to me in the financial say, "You were very lucky. You are one of the 2% of insurances that will help you pay for this. You are very lucky." And I'll never forget that. And not everybody comes up, but there are a slew of our female faculty members who've had to experience that throughout their time. So I just beg of you, this is something that's really important to us. You know, I don't know if everybody's going to talk. It's really hard when I'm sweating. But I just really appreciate you guys. And I didn't know that this was going to be tonight. Like, I just thought I was going to come and get informed. But I love it here, and I'd like to stay, and it'd be really important. So please really think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the public?
My name is Sarah Stover. I've been here quite a while as a special ed teacher. Like Lori, I talk a little bit about my health issues going on that they don't really know what's going on yet. So I've been going through a lot of testing, and I gotta say I'm kind of afraid because I don't know what January's gonna bring. I know that last year when we were going through this, I had like one doctor in mind, and I really don't want to be finding other doctors. You know, I like it here too. I mean, everything's, you know, the kids are great, everybody's great, the staff's great. And for me, this is, health insurance is a big thing. It's huge. And it's one thing that I just, I'm gonna lose. I know everybody else is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angela Mayer. I am a science teacher at the high school. I teach physics and environmental science. I have an engineering degree, actually by trade. So I come from a corporate world, and I understand what great benefits we actually do have. And I understand that that sort of makes up for being on the lower end of the pay scale. I just ask that you be as informed as possible when you make this decision. I teach your children every day as good scientists You need to have information to back up the things that you are making decisions about. And so I'm just up here to ask that you do the same thing, like I'm trying to teach your children to do every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Owen, senior English teacher and cross-country coach. I'm actually in the middle of my cross-country banquet at the moment, but I figure this is kind of important. Just two quick questions for the board in general, or whoever it is that makes these decisions. As of Monday, there was no notice, there was no information to be found by the public as far as the medical insurance being anywhere on board agenda. As of yesterday, we was told it would be discussed, and as of, I believe, again, I was at a banquet about 5 minutes before this meeting, we were told that it is going to be voted on tonight. I'd like to know why the lack of notification, why the lack of getting information out there, both to those of us with impacts and those in the community who's also impacts, because we're working with their kids. Why the lack of notification? Why the last minute changing?
Our agenda wasn't ready till Monday. We weren't 100% sure it was going to be on the agenda till Monday. That's pretty much all I can tell you, John.
Second question. I've been to a couple of these board meetings. Is it normal to have last minute agenda changes for pretty important things like this? People getting paid, major decisions like this? Again, I usually haven't gone to board meetings in the past outside of talking about the trip. Is that standard policy to change up things at the last minute like this?
I would say that the agenda is a living document and it changes pretty much up until 7 o'clock before the board meeting. What you may consider to be major, what we consider to be major, are probably somewhat equal. I would consider this a major thing. I would consider hire someone a major thing also. So yes, it does change.
Thank you. Now I got to back on that. Excuse me.
Enjoy.
Other comments or questions from the public this evening?
David Poyer is that teacher here. I think what we're all trying to say is your decision tonight will show how you value the teachers. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, so my name is Chris Coyle, I'm our teacher here. I've been not involved in negotiations for a long time, and Brown has been like a running joke with us in negotiations in our meeting, Browning this and Browning that. So we've been hearing about Brown for a long time. You know, we know that whatever presentation that is given here is not going to really impact us, or can impact us, but we have to be on the phone with somebody for 45 minutes, finding out why they're not covering something that used to be covered. So the presentation, and it may assuage people on the board that, okay, this is the same or similar, but we know it's not going to be similar. I can't imagine one time where cost has gone down and the coverage has increased. So as far as I'm concerned, that, you know, the presentation is useless. I'm sure it's comforting in some way, but it's not going to be comforting to us when the time comes when we're going to get our new car and we're going to have to decide which doctors we can use now or which doctors we can't use. I can give you just one example. I had to go into Verizon, I needed a test done, so I gave a phone call to them, and I got it approved, or I didn't get it approved, and they wanted me to call back, so I called back and I said, yeah, you have to go to one of these two places, or you have to pay part of it. And the other, one place was like in Edison. I had to travel 50 miles for this test, but it ended up that my Verizon covered that fully. But the whole point is there is differences within each plan. Even within Verizon, they have differences within their thing. So I'm sure they have a big book which covers everything that we're never going to see, and I'm sure that when we have the same people with America Health, whatever that name is, we have the same kind of thing that we're never going to see, and we're never going to know those differences until we get the card, like I said, and we got to make the call and sit on the phone for 45 minutes.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening?
I guess I'll just add on one comment. When we went through this process a year ago, we all spent again that 45 minutes plus with, I mean, every time I do anything with the insurance, I tell my wife and my daughter, I'm like, we get a call, we're gonna double check it. To go through that for a plan change like this is time consuming just at the beginning. But what it means each time we go through going to a new procedure or a new doctor, below what the cost is going to be for each one of us. I get saving money. I've had to do a lot of that recently. But I think we all understand that basic idea. We don't get more for less. It just does not work that way. When I called up a year ago about something specific to my daughter and someone that she was seeing a specialist for, the woman, I joked enough, laughed at me and said, that's an Obamacare type of thing. And so So for me, various parts of that comment really hit home for me. What looks good today may not be good tomorrow, and that's what I fear we're heading into. I get you've got to save money, but you've got to think about it from all angles. Things have to be thought through. The old cliche of, failing to plan is planning to fail is really true.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dan McIntyre. I'm a special ed teacher here, wrestling coach. As my colleagues have emphasized, and I feel the same way, I have three children, two of which have a certain disease. I don't divulge, but they see specialists. We go to CHOP, King of Prussia, down in Philly, for infusion, bi-monthly for two of them. And same thing last year, or whichever time period that we looked into Mirror Health, these doctors weren't on that list. My children were comfortable with those doctors. I found a guy at University of Penn who's like the father of this disease. My kid met him, didn't want anything to do with him, stayed with his local guy in Lehigh Valley while he was going to school in Philadelphia. And, that to me, it was so important that he continued these infusions so his health won't deteriorate. And these diseases are something that they're going to live with their whole life. They're only covered to a certain age, I understand. But the one thing about being here is this is a great place. I love coaching here. I love teaching here. I love the people, love the kids. And the one big thing that is awesome is that with Horizon we have great health insurance. And that's a main factor for keeping a lot of us here and wanting to teach here. So, I don't know. I was caught off guard about talking because it's not my thing. But thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else this evening?
My name is Amy Blake. I'm a first grade teacher at first grade school. I've been here 17 years. I love my job. However, the insurance was one of the parts that kept us here. My husband is a type 1 diabetic. When we were going through last year, none of his doctors accepted American Health. When my son was 4 years old, he woke up in the morning and could not move. I thought he had a stroke. We went to the hospital. He was lifelong to CHOP. We spent 4 days in CHOP. Thank goodness it was not a stroke. It was cut. Everything was taken care of. It was fine. However, if we had other insurance, I could pay anything for the helicopter, for the life flight, for being in CHOP for those days. I don't think it would be the same way if we had that insurance today. And if we had to deal with those bills, I couldn't afford it. I wouldn't be paying for it financially. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Seth Wisner. I'm a math teacher at the high school. I just look around the table and I see so many familiar faces, people that taught their sons and daughters, students taught with, best friends with their sons and daughters. Just so much respect for the people here and for this town of Belvidere. I'm a hometown boy. I've been here forever. And I'm the kind of guy who kind of just puts my head down and does what I have to do. But when certain things come up like this, it hits home. My daughter was born with a severe craniofacial issue, and without Horizon and having had Mirror Health, she would not be, for lack of better words, normal physically. So that was kind of so just.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Gomez. I've been teaching here 18 years, and when I heard everybody talking about their stuff, I have my own story. I conceived my son through IVF. He has a heart condition. He's had 3 surgeries. I actually had him at Miracle Presbyterian in the city. So Horizon has been wonderful. We still have thousands of dollars in bills
Thank you. Anybody else from the public this evening?
Victoria Spears, I won't tell you how long I've been here, but it's been a while. I think I've been doing pretty well. I just want to know that I feel confident that the board will do what's in the best interest of the people. Because navigating the insurance world is very, very difficult. Especially for the family members of chronic illness. It's difficult, it's stressful, and it's expensive. And I think, and that's even with a very good company, because of the shield, and a very good plan. So I think moving to a company that's subpar would cause additional hardship on families that already are facing hardship. So I appreciate your time and make this.
Thanks, Victoria. Anyone else from the public this evening? Correspondence? None? Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Mr. Coyle, I assume you're filling in for Mr. Owens on the Europe trip?
Yes, I'm here to give a brief update instead of, we just pass those down, please, instead of, and again, just pass those down. That's not good. Thank you. And instead of Mr. Owens, of course, who already came in and explained that he's part of the cross-country tonight. I simply wanted to say that we had a little bit of an update to our 2020 plans. As you can see on here, we received some correspondence from EF Tours, the company that we traditionally use, a few weeks ago, and they said that the tour that we had set up and previously covered with you guys for 2020 could not be run, given that they had problems with one of the ferry companies. So they decided to dump that trip altogether. They offered us other ones. The other backup options were nowhere near as good, both in cost-wise, going well above what we're comfortable with, number one. And number two, also going to places we thought were not nearly as interesting. And so John and I, typically working through the entire process of putting the trip together, sat down, picked a new trip, kept it within the price level, as you can see on there, which we're comfortable with. There has been a tweak to it, but still goes to some phenomenal places. It's just we can't do Barcelona because of a ferry problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Finn, are you ready?
So, good evening, everyone. Jim Finn with Brown & Brown Benefit Advisors. I'm a senior VP with the firm. Been in this business, employee benefits, consulting, and brokerage since 1995, so quite a number of years. And I've had the privilege of being your consultant and broker since 1999. So I've seen you through a number of changes, whether they be selection of a different carrier or collective bargaining or the need to comply with the never-ending changes that are forced upon us by the federal and state government relative to how to manage a health plan. With me this evening are my teammate Mary Mascarella. Mary, stand up, say hello. And Tom Tafuri. Tom is a recent addition to our team. And Tom, until October 15th, where did you work?
I worked at America, New Jersey.
All right, so you're doubly the most hated person. All right, good. Thanks. All right, have a seat. So the first order of business is for me to ask Mrs. Chandler to release me from the 15-minute bookends she gave me on the phone earlier this week, because I think we're going to need a little bit more time. What do you think, Shelley?
Perfectly fine.
I knew it was your call, Mr. Macaroni. I just wanted to bust Shelley's chops a little bit. Okay. So I hear a lot of fear. I hear a lot of anxiety. I hear a new nickname for our company. We'll take that back to our corporate counsel and see if we can put that on our bumper stickers going forward. I kind of like Brownie. Our current mascot's a different animal. Not a bear, but bears are good too. So I'm torn between diving right into the presentation and addressing from my own personal experience some issues with healthcare. And with your permission, briefly, Mr. Macaroni, I'd like to do that.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to have kids via IVF, in vitro fertilization, if they don't have to, right? The natural way is a lot more fun. I think you'd all agree. And I can say that because I have two sets of twins. conceived via IVF. In addition, in 2009, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And I had what's called a radical nephrectomy, where they take out your kidney, your adrenal gland. Fortunately, they caught it on time, didn't have to have chemo, didn't have to have radiation. So I recovered, and here I am. All of those events happened within a 10-year span of time, where the company I worked for prior to Brown & Brown was covered by America. I'll sign an affidavit to that effect. What we paid for IVF for Carmen and Julia, $10. What I paid for my radical nephrectomy in 2009, when I walked into New York Presbyterian for my surgery, $15. What I paid for my son Stephen, who has cerebral palsy, who has all kinds of needs, some of which were covered by his IEP, some of which were covered by Medicaid once he reached a certain age, but prior to that age, all kinds of things were covered. Did we have to make phone calls? Sure. Did we sometimes have to fight the insurance carrier? Here and there. But raise your hand the last time you heard somebody say, I love my health insurance carrier. Because I'll tell you folks, well, that's good. That's good, because what I think you love is the style of coverage you have. And here's why I'm saying that. Who was here when Brown & Brown recommended almost 4 years ago that the district leave the school employee health plan and go on a private plan? And I heard at that time, both before and after the decision, a lot of consternation about whether the benefits would be equal, whether something, I forget who said it, could be cheaper but the same. How'd that work out? Pretty good. You did, and we're going to get to that. In this room and throughout the district, $200,000 less of payroll deduction occurred in your population because the Board of Ed at the time trusted our recommendation, because we did the research, we did the vetting, we looked under every stone. We made the recommendation. You didn't like it then, but you like it now. And I'm hopeful that with our help and with a little bit of an open mind, if the board accepts our recommendation tonight, that 4 years from now, you will be where the following school districts in this region that are with AmeriHealth, by and large, are relative to their satisfaction with the plan. Let's see. Wallkill Valley, Sussex County ESC, Lafayette Board of Ed, recently joined, correct? When was that effective date, Mary?
July 1st.
Okay, July 1st. Washington Township Board of Ed in Warren County, July 1 of 16. Well, we've done our own surveys, and we also have a way of tracking people's elevated service issues that I'll get to in just a moment. Lopakon Township Board of Ed, Union Township Board of Ed in northern Hunterdon County, South Hunterdon, Reddington Township Board of Ed. All of these districts at one point or another made the decision at the board level to go with this program that we're recommending for a number of reasons that I think will be clear during my presentation. So what I'm going to ask the board, since it is your decision, is to keep an open mind and to understand that I can identify with a lot of their concerns. Been there, done that, I have a t-shirt. And if I thought I was recommending to you subpar insurance, shame on me. But if you ask the Board of Ed, superintendent, and business administrator community throughout the state, I don't stick it to my clients. I don't stick it to their employees. Mary, can you bring up the presentation? I'm not gonna, if you guys want a catcall, we can end this now, or you can give me the respect that you've been given to be heard. Thank you. All right, so starting from the beginning, I'm sorry that some of you have to turn around to see this. Thank you, Mary. Give it a second. Okay, next slide. Ooh. Where's our super smooth IT? Okay, here we go. Next slide, please. This is what we're going to discuss tonight, real quick, an overview of our firm, followed by a quick review of what is going on in the entire New Jersey Board of Ed group insurance marketplace, because like it or not, your coverage is designed, marketed, and managed in a broader marketplace. That's how health insurance works. Review a little bit the school employee health benefits program, because that is something that you left, and I'd like to give you a report of how that plan is doing. It ain't doing so well. If it were a horse, you would shoot it. We're going to look a little bit at the difference between the vehicle that we're recommending to the Board of Education. It's called a public employer trust. It's a pool of school districts. And the way that pool delivers the same quality coverage you have now at a lower cost is twofold. Lower overhead, because all of the groups in that program are managed together, as well as pooled buying power that commands better rates. So there may be certain things that you can't get for less and maintain the quality, but I have a quarter of a century of experience in this business to say that does not apply to health insurance. We'll look quickly at our marketing results, because every year prior to your plan having its policy renewal, we look at what the options are out there for coverage. It's our job. It's what we're paid to do. It's the board's responsibility. I heard a lot in the public comments. Did the board do its due diligence? Absolutely. In fact, intensely over the past 3 years, the Board of Education and I and my team and the administration have been in a protracted education experience about what's going on in the marketplace and what are the possible forks in the road that you might have to take. And for 2 years, 3 maybe, you've said, Jim, not yet. Our employees like Horizon, it's what they're comfortable with, and we can almost afford it. It's now become unaffordable. And I'll explain why in a second. And that means for you all as well. And then we'll close with options moving forward and next steps. And please, at the board level, please stop me and ask if you have any, please ask if you have any questions. So next slide. That's our commercial. We represent 300 school districts. It's 51% of the market. We know what's going on. We know where the bum deals are. We know where the good deals are. Our teams have 25 plus years of experience at the team leader level, and that means me in this case. And we have certain proprietary programs, including the program we're recommending to the board tonight for January 1, called the Public Employer Trust. Next slide. So this is the marketplace in a snapshot. So I'm a bit of a PowerPoint geek, so bear with me. If every school district in the state had equal value, and there's about 583 of them, then this is 1 over 583, okay? The school employee health plan, the plan you didn't want to leave a few years ago, has dropped like a stone from 60% market share 4 years ago to 39% and sinking fast. Horizon, the carrier you're with now, on a direct basis, 23% of the market. They've also lost significant market share. The purple slice, Schools Health Insurance Fund, is a pool, just like the Public Employer Trust Program I'm recommending is a pool, and I'll come back to that. The first red slice, with 9% of the districts in the state, including the ones I mentioned earlier, plus many, many others, has about 9% market share. The reason we show 2 slightly different colored red slices is AmeriHealth underwrites, provides the insurance for the Public Employer Trust, but they also write groups on a direct basis that are big enough to be insured on a direct basis, and that does not include, in their estimation, Belvidere. So they've offered you coverage through their pooled program, the Public Employer Trust. The rest of the also-rans, Aetna, Cigna, Oxford, they're out there, but they have minimum group size requirements that you do not meet. You have to have a certain number of people enrolled to get a quote from United, from Cigna. You're certainly too small to self-insure. That's right out. Another small health insurance fund in South Jersey called the Coastal HIF, Health Insurance Fund. You're not eligible for that. Cape May, Cumberland, Salem, and Atlantic County. That's not available to you. Aetna, on a direct basis, requires you have at least 150 enrolled employees. At one point, you had slightly over 100. Now you're down to about 85. We all know this. So what that leaves for Belvidere, as far as future health insurance carrier, or what we call risk-bearer relationships, are the following. School Employee Health Benefits Program. Their rates next year are 20% higher. 20% higher than your Horizon rates this year. 20%. That would require about $500,000, right? About $500,000 expenditure that you don't have. Horizon, for groups of your size, and most of those districts that are in that 23% slice are our clients, when you have fewer than 100 employees enrolled, the carrier stops providing things like claims experience reports. That's just their policy. They stop providing, I think someone referenced the disruption analysis. They stop providing the data necessary to do that because it's not worth their time and expense to provide such reporting packages for smaller groups. Okay? And the only other option on this wheel available to you is the public employer trust. That's it. Because the school's health insurance fund, which is another option I asked the board to consider last year and the year before, is no longer underwriting groups that cannot provide claims experience who fall below that magic 100 number. So you're painting or being painted into a corner, a narrower and narrower corner. And please, if you vote to stay with Horizon, okay, you've made that decision as a governing body. But then turn over the checkbook. Because they have 3 stamps in their underwriting department for groups under 100 employees. 9, 12, 15. Math teachers, the rule of 72. Whatever number you divide into 72 as a compounded interest rate, it's that many numbers yielded in the quotient that represent the number of years to double. In other words, if your rates continue to increase at 9 to 15%, which they have been, even though they are still relative, much cheaper than the school employee health plan, they've still been going up rapidly. Your premiums will double in 6 years. Double. What you pay for health insurance will most likely double in 6 years. Board members, administrators, any questions on the market share? Thank you. Next slide. So, when I talk about the school employee health plan, we are not anti-state health. We're pro-client and we're pro-truth. Since 2014, the year before you left, the year the landslide began, 84 school districts in the state of New Jersey have left that program. 81,000 members, employees, spouses, and kids. The reason is they're the insurer of last resort, and groups with good claims experience leave, like Belvidere, and despite some of your concerns, before you left the state plan, you had good claims experience. Groups that have bad claims experience go back and say, please insure us, no one else will quote us. That is no way to run a railroad. That is a designed to fail plan, and I won't say it's failing, but it's certainly ailing. A lot of districts up here in this neck of the woods. And by the way, they didn't all go to Horizon. South Hunterdon, Reddington, Union, Frenchtown, left the school employee health plan and went to the public employer trust. And to this day, not a single upheld grievance, not a single successful PERC action, and your labor attorney can verify that. Because once it's settled in, and once we get past the fear and anxiety that is understandable, it works really well. It worked well for me, and for my twins, and for my son. Now, I don't call the shots at the company I work at now, Brown & Brown, which acquired my former employer, Grinspec Consulting, so we're now covered by United Healthcare. 2 years ago, it was Blue Cross of Florida. 8 years before that, it was somebody else. Next slide, please. All right. If you are a smaller employer, when you can, it logically makes sense to band together with other school districts so that you have that buying power, you have that wherewithal to have lower rate increases and lower overhead expenses than other plans. And as I indicated, these are the only shared services arrangements out there. Everything else, you're at the whim of a carrier. Horizon, Aetna, Cigna, Oxford, etc. Next slide. Now, the vehicle is a trust. There may come a day, next year, 5 years from now, where Brown & Brown, as the manager of the Public Employer Trust, says to AmeriHealth, thank you very much for 25 years of service. We're replacing you with United. Obviously, we would do that in consultation with our member groups, governing bodies, and administrators. We don't do that lightly. In fact, AmeriHealth has underwritten the medical part of the Public Employer Trust since 1997. And you at Belvidere have been a member of the prescription drug component of that trust since 2014. That is with a company called B.O.E. Does that ring a bell? Yes. The rate increases in that plan have been so far below market, it makes the rest of the market look laughable. 5% increases on prescription drug costs. We all know what's going on with prescription drug costs themselves. The fact that we can underwrite into this program, this trust, selected groups and reject others means the costs over time, both initially and down the road, are lower. Same or better for less money. The components of the trust are here. It's fully insured. There is no potential for you to be hit with what's called a retroactive assessment, which occurs in health insurance funds. You also do not get dividends. If the insurance carrier makes money, they keep it. Okay? You don't want to do business with a carrier that's losing money. What's the likely outcome there? Your commitment is 1 year. If you don't like, as a governing body, how the plan runs, after a year, you're out. Whereas in a health insurance fund, the commitment is 3 years, although there's a statutory backdoor where you can have a 90-day out. So you left the state plan a while ago. That was the right move. Empirically, there's no disputing that. Not even an argument to be had, in my humble opinion. The health insurance fund was quoting you last year before that. They're no longer an option. We do have clients that are in the health insurance fund. In fact, Mary, if you can go back to the pie chart, please. Thank you. Keep going. 2 more. We, Brown & Brown, have clients in every single one of these risk-bearing arrangements. Piscataway Board of Ed is with Cigna. Ocean City Board of Ed is with the Coastal Health Insurance Fund. Long Branch Board of Ed is that black slice. They're self-insured. Hunter Central, 6%. They're with that. Linden Wall Board of Ed on a direct basis with AmeriHealth. 60 groups in the Public Employer Trust. We have 7 of our clients in the school's health insurance fund, including Lebanon, Bethlehem, etc. So we're not here to shill for this program. It is a program that we manage. But my point is, we know which companies and which vehicles have which strengths and which weaknesses. That's what the board pays us to find out. You slide ahead. Members of the board and administration, before I go on, please stop there. Any questions? Okay, next slide. So, provider networks. Horizon is who you have now, and AmeriHealth is who underwrites the Public Employer Trust. The footnote there, footnote 1 says data provided by independent source Strenis Research from fourth quarter 17. That's the last results that we have. You can look them up on the web. It's Strenis with 2 U's.com. The reason we use that data is Horizon no longer provides provider information on your population that we can take in a HIPAA-compliant way and sift through other networks to see where the matches are. That's what the lady with the scarf was referring to with the disruption analysis. No longer available. Horizon will not give you the data. Your options are dwindling. Your group is shrinking. So, according to Strenis, in Warren County, 112 primary and specialty physicians for Horizon, 113 for AmeriHealth. Anybody know how many licensed physicians are located in Warren County? 145. I'm sorry? I'm getting there. I live there. I'm in Bucks County. I got you. All right. Hunterton, Sussex, and Warren County. 303 versus 290. All New Jersey counties, 8923 versus 8890. So while we no longer have the data because your group is no longer over 100 employees to do a customized disruption analysis, as it would be called, I have a feeling that's pretty close. Any questions, board members? No. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about service. So this is a bit of a busy chart. So you may not be able to your score as a carrier to be as low as possible. Board members, if you don't have a folder, can you raise your hands just in case you need one? All right, thank you, Tom. So this is several slides in, slide 9. What this shows is for my team, Team Finn is my team, obviously, and in the second half of 17, July 17 through December 17, the coverages that I brokered covered 18,431 members, employees, spouses, and kids. The year before, we covered 18,806, so very stable population. In the more recent year, July 17 through December 17, 323 times, members of our clients' groups reached out to us for what we call elevated member service to help them solve a problem that they could not get done on their own. That's 2 times. That's 2. That they could not get solved on their own with the carrier. The year before, 396 issues. And what we do statistically is we break down the elevated issues per carrier, per 100 members covered with that carrier. AmeriHealth, 2 years ago, had a score of 3.3 elevated service issues per 100 members covered. Verizon had a score of 1.9. 3.3 divided by 1.9 is a pretty high percentage, 60% or so. More issues. I attribute that to 2 things. Number 1, the year before, AmeriHealth had gone through a massive system migration of all their services, all their claims, all their billing, and it took a while to work out those bugs. The second thing I attribute that to is we always get more calls from members when they're joining a new plan than we get when they're with an established plan that they know. And a lot of the time that established plan is Horizon. But the market is moving away, especially smaller employers, from direct contract arrangements with carriers like Horizon. They're moving towards pools, whether it be the health insurance fund or the public employer trust. Any questions about this chart? Okay, next one. All right, so before we get to next steps and I take a round of questions, Mary, can you hand out some more, marketing reports, please? And so some of you that are on the finance committee, right? Shelley, that's the committee I met with?
Finance and some of the negotiations.
Got it. So if you do not have one of these, can you please raise your hand? Okay, this is not something that we're just plopping on the district tonight. We've been reviewing these results with the administration and most recently the finance committee. But I want to make sure we all know where the numbers are. If you could all go to Roman numeral section 5. Roman numeral section 5. And Mary, if you could pull that up on the screen, please. Oops. Okay. There you go. So, what I need you to do, Mary, is to maybe, it's not here to focus on. That's me. All right, can you scroll down until we have the second set of carrier headers? You don't have to scroll. There you go. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going until it's about in the middle. And then zoom it up so we have a bigger, so it's more viewable. See the slide after there. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. All right, stop. Move on. You know what we need to do, right? Perfect. Okay. So, what you see on the board is what you have in front of you, board members. From right to left, Cigna. We went to get a quote from them. We expected them to decline, and they did. You don't have enough people. They're not interested. Oxford, same thing. You're too small. Aetna, same thing. You're too small. Schools Health Insurance Fund, Shift. They said, we would have loved to have you last year, but we're no longer underwriting groups who can't give us recent claims experience. School Employee Health Plan. I want everyone to look down to the number. Mary, please highlight that cell with your cursor. The 160. The monthly premium next year with the School Employee Health Plan that you left would be $161,000 for the same coverage, the same network. The plan employees did not want to leave, because who likes change? Not too many people. The monthly premium now is $133,000. So you can do the math. You've been doing very well with Horizon compared to the plan you left. And I hope that reinforces in the minds of the board that when we make recommendations, most of the time they work out. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But we're pretty darn good. To the right, what Horizon wants to do next year is increase your rates by 9%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you have a tax levy cap here, as you know, of 2%. And you have to get a special waiver if you want to include, outside of that cap, the dollars associated with a health insurance plan. And that's not always something that's easy to do, not always something every board wants to do. And the original number from Horizon was plus 12. We did go back to Horizon and showed them, ladies and gentlemen, the proposal from AmeriHealth. It's part of what we do. We asked for their best and final number, and the response wasn't as snide as it sounds, was, look, you gave us an AmeriHealth quote last year, they didn't go. You gave us one the year before, they didn't go. We're not going to come from plus 12 to plus 5. We'll give you a few points. Because we don't think Belvidere is going to leave. We think they like us too much. That's a direct paraphrase of how the underwriting conversation went. So they know they're in a position to lose your business. They're not really that worried about it. Okay. Now, what the next line shows is what we project the Horizon monthly premium would be based on your current enrollment and all the different plans. If as of 1/1/20, as it says in the footnote, and I'm sorry the font is so small, if as of 1/1/20 Horizon hits you with another increase of 11%. The reason we use that number, it's the 2-year average of the last 2 renewals. We don't know what they're going to do 1/1/20. We may never know, especially if you go with AmeriHealth for 1/1/19. What AmeriHealth has done is 2 things. They've come in at rates virtually identical to this year's rates. So Mary, please highlight that cell. There's an extra 3 in there. I don't know where that's coming from. There you go. $133,000 versus current premium of $133,000 versus a renewal premium Horizon wants at $145,000 versus the state plan at $161,000. And here's what else they've done. They've guaranteed the rates not for 12 months, but for 18 months. 18 months. So you would completely bypass any rate increase 1/1/20. Your administration can prepare the upcoming year's budget knowing in November what their costs will be through June of 20. And the final and most important part financially is that once you're in the trust, which you would be, every group, irrespective of how that population of a given group performs on claims, gets the same rate increase. The same rate increase. It's called a pooled rate action. The last 3 numbers, July 1/18, July 1/17, July 1/16, have been 7, 7, and 5. The average has been about 6.3%. And we're projecting for the next July 1/19 cycle, which would not be applicable to you because your rates are good through July 1/20, 5%. Horizon wants 9. State plan wants 20. Everybody wants what they want. So, regarding the financial aspect of the proposal, any questions or comments from administrators or board members? No. All right, so back to, let's open up the marketing report real quick, that document, Aaron, please. So I'm going to ask board members and administrators please to turn to section 4 and the second page. What we have there, and I'll wait for Mary to catch up. Are you getting lag? All right, so get rid of that P. You can't work on control minus or something. There you go. So control minus 3 times, please. Up, control plus 1 if you're going to be in a pool, you're going to want to know who you're swimming with. And these are all of the public employers in the Public Employer Trust, underwritten by AmeriHealth. They all come into the pool with their own bargain benefits. They all come in with their own entry rates. But after they're in the pool, the rate increase is common, whether it's a 5, a 7, or a 6, or a 4. If you look at this, wow, it's a lot of South Jersey groups. Tom, please stand up.
Yep.
There's a reason for that. AmeriHealth is a subsidiary of what company?
Independence, Blue Cross, Blue.
Is CHOP in the network?
Absolutely.
Is Jefferson in the network?
Absolutely.
Tom in the network?
Sorry?
Tom in the
Yes,
network.
Tom is.
Right. Thank you. So if you can be in a pool with districts that are in a lower cost area than the North Jersey market, which is influenced by New York, which we're going to get to, that's a good thing. But there's plenty of districts around here as well that are in the program, and I mentioned some of them earlier. The ones that are in bold, asterisk, are ones that have joined in the year 2018. This is the biggest year the trust has had in attracting new groups in 2 decades. And the reason for that is the school employee health plan rates are out of control. Horizon direct rates like you have are out of control. And smaller districts want to combine buying power. And we've asked Horizon if they would like to be the underwriter of the Public Employer Trust. They said no. We're okay with the school employee health plan. That's their biggest customer, so I can't blame them, and they wouldn't compete against their biggest customer anyway. Now let's talk about coverage out of state. Mary and Tom, can you switch places? Tom, can you use the Chrome? We're going to pull up on the AmeriHealth website, which I invite you all to look at your leisure, AmeriHealthNJ.com, how the network works. Because the company is a subsidiary of the Blue Cross plan, Independence Blue Cross of Philadelphia, they can't call themselves Blue Cross. They call themselves AmeriHealth. And they have a 3-state network called the Regional Preferred Network. So as some of you have been researching them, you've probably come across things like Advantage or PPO. None of that applies to the plan we're proposing tonight. None of it. Horizon has multiple networks. They take Medicaid patients, Medicare patients. They have Omnia. They have EPO. Doesn't mean it applies to you. Same with AmeriHealth. So the organic AmeriHealth network, as we call it, is the entire state of New Jersey, all of Delaware, and the 9 county regions surrounding Philadelphia, all the way up to Northampton County, including Easton, Allentown, etc. So just like your Horizon card has 2 logos, Horizon Blue Cross for New Jersey, and the PPO suitcase for all of the Blue Cross plans, your AmeriHealth card would have 2 logos. The AmeriHealth logo for this region, and then behind it, you see the shaded map of the United States, a network called Multiplan PHCS. Multiplan PHCS is the largest national network affiliated with carriers who lease that network to complete the picture for people who want in-network benefits in New York, in Florida, in California. So in 2009, when I had my nephrectomy at New York Presbyterian, I had to say to the nice lady at the counter, no, don't look at the AmeriHealth logo, look at the PHCS logo. Oh, got it. That's how the network works. So for any of you who are interested in visiting the network, it's AmeriHealthNJ.com. It's pretty intuitive in terms of the search engine. We're not going to do any searches this evening. But I know some of you think your doctors aren't in it. And maybe in some cases you're right, but perhaps you're looking at different networks on the AmeriHealth website that do not apply to you. So, with that, the last thing I'll show the board members, I promise, is the equal to or better than letter. And that is found in section, Mary, help me out, so I know you're following along on your copy of the marketing report. Section 7. So section 7. What we have are the decline in quote responses from the other carriers, and we also have the AmeriHealth equal to letter. It's the second page, please, in section 7. AmeriHealth has designed a plan providing benefits for Belvidere Board of Education, which is based on the benefits provided. We guarantee the benefits are equal to or better than the current benefit program offered to Belvidere Board of Education. Thank you, Tom. Mary, can you switch with me and go back to the financial analysis, please? Very simple paragraph. Most other carriers, their equal to or better than guarantee is caveated out the you-know-what. We have the clout with AmeriHealth to make sure they're equal to because they underwrite our program. And if they did a poor job, they would no longer have that privilege. Financial analysis, please. Is it frozen? Hi. You know what's up? You're getting the image replication? So here's what we have. We have a projected 18-month savings, as you saw in the financial analysis, of $310,000, $60,000 of which would flow to your employees because they pay a portion of the premium. Thank you. We have a guaranteed equal to or better than benefit that has proven very solid at 60 other districts, including 12 in this Tri-County region. We have a, thank you, we have a quality provider network. We have a broker who, hopefully you'll agree, kind of knows sort of what they're doing. And we have a carrier that said, yeah, we know. They looked at AmeriHealth, and we still want to charge $15,000 more a month, almost $200,000 more, because Belvidere is not going to leave. They haven't left before. Why would they leave now? So with that, Mr. President, and folks, thanks for letting me go over.
Jim, I have one question for you.
Yes.
I know you did a nice job of talking about the 9 counties that surround Philadelphia. We have quite a few folks that live in Monroe County, which is just above Northampton,
That would
which
be
I think is a major concern, so if you can address that.
Sure. So the network you would access is the multi-plan PHCS network. The website address for that is phcs.com. What I recommend you do is you do a zip code search, meaning ask for all pediatricians within 10 miles or 20 miles. We did this just the other day, and I would do a web search if time permitted or if instructed by the board or their administrators, so I'm not hiding anything. It's a very comprehensive network. Will the network be identical in every respect to Horizon? Absolutely not. Nor is that the standard the board has to meet. Not the standard. Better Business Bureau. Yes, for a while, Tom's former company had an F. If I understand what happened, people posted complaints, and your marketing folks weren't looking at the website and posting responses.
Correct.
When you left AmeriHealth, what was your Better Business Bureau rating?
A+. And it currently is A+.
Thank you. In addition, a very important organization called the National Committee for Quality Assurance, which is an independent credentialing body that rates all health insurance companies, just came out with their latest results. On a scale of 1 to 5 overall, 5 being the best, Horizon had 2 ratings because they have 2 companies. They had a 4 and a 3.5. AmeriHealth's rating, I believe, was a 3. No, it was not a 2. It was a 3.5. They may have had one category at a certain number, but the aggregate number was 3 or 3.5. So, I think it's a solid recommendation, but again, you've been my client for almost 20 years. If you want to stay with Horizon, we'll make that mission successful. If you want to take this program, we'll make that mission successful. Every meeting you delay, we leave about $12,000 on the table, and the only extension we could get to the effective date with AmeriHealth was February 1 of 19 instead of 1/1. The problem with that is once people start incurring claims in the month of January, and some folks use their out-of-network deductible, the process of getting that credited with the new carrier is extremely arduous. We would prefer a 1/1 effective date. And with that, I will conclude and see, starting with Mr. McInerney, if you have any questions.
Questions from the board?
I do.
Sorry.
Jim,
Brian.
at the Finance Committee, you mentioned what I'll call a transition fund.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little to the board members?
Absolutely. So, what I believe is in the agenda item is that in addition to making the change, that the board would set up a supplemental fund. What that supplemental fund would do is anyone who can prove in a HIPAA compliant fashion to us, not to your employer, that for the duration until a new bargaining agreement is reached, that if your doctor was in network with Horizon and not in network with AmeriHealth or PHCS, and you then use the out-of-network side of your plan with the deductible in the 80/20, and your out-of-pocket expense was higher than it would have been had it been an in-network service, the board would pay the difference in tax-free dollars. Example, you see a dermatologist 4 times a year. I get little skin cancer things, so I see one 4 times a year. And he's with Horizon, so you pay $10 times 4, that's $40. We go with this program, your dermatologist is not in network. You still have coverage, you have an out-of-network benefit. But let's say you owe 20% of a $200 visit. That's $40. 40 times 40 times 40 times 40, 160. Minus 40 is 120. And whether you want to do it as each visit goes by or do it whatever, we would advise the board without breaching diagnosis or name of provider, which are your business, not theirs. Hey board, pay this lady or this gentleman $120, cash free, or excuse me, tax free, in a check. It's called a supplemental fund or a side fund. And I commend you for considering that in advance, because please don't tell any other boards of ed, including White or any other board of ed, most boards of ed have to be dragged to that because the union starts making their complaints after the effective date, and there's a lot of fur that flies, and then they're kind of squeezed into it. You're pondering doing that proactively, and I applaud you for doing it.
Other questions from the board? Mr. Finn, why do you feel that AmeriHealth has a poor reputation? We've heard that. I've heard that in the past. Some of it may stem from poor research or maybe not understanding the networks. But can you, because you've laid out some very compelling reasons why AmeriHealth would be a good choice,
Sure.
But yet we still are dogged by these concerns. So I'm just
Sure.
curious as to why that's an issue for AmeriHealth.
Sure, and I'll gladly answer that. I'm just pulling up something that's relevant to that, so give me 1 second,
Sure.
please. Okay. All right, can't seem to find it. Did anyone read CNN, New York Times, New York Post, Philadelphia Inquirer, that Aetna, another fairly good insurance company, was just hit with a $50 million civil damage suit? Yeah. Horizon has been subject to multiple direct and class action suits about failure to provide care here, failure to approve that service there. United Healthcare, same thing, Cigna and the rest. AmeriHealth, I believe, has a residue of issues relative to service because in 2015, as I mentioned, they put their entire clientele through a system migration from an old system to a new system. It literally went kablooey, and it took 6 months to get things back to where they were. And they still have a less than perfect service model. And I was candid with that in the board finance committee meeting, but they're not so far out of whack that I would consider it intolerable. And it's our job, whether through the supplemental fund or with other issues like pre-approval of radiology services and that type of stuff, to make everything right for the members.
Thank you.
Sure.
One more follow-up question to your associate. When did AmeriHealth go from an F rating with Better Business Bureau to an A+ rating? When did that occur?
So that occurred over a year ago, maybe about a year ago, to the best of my recollection.
And they leapfrogged right from an F to an A+?
Yes, because Jim had mentioned the team was not aware that the inquiries were there. They were addressed almost immediately, pretty much within a couple of weeks. And Better Business Bureau was notified. They obviously saw responses from AmeriHealth that it was addressed. And Better Business Bureau took their action and raised the rating appropriately
questions?
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Maybe stick around?
Of course.
Thank you.
We're still my report, if you want to hear my report. I don't have later.
Please
There are
proceed.
some things I do want to share, though, because we've had some very good things going on in the district, and we haven't met in about a month, so I do want to report on that. I want to start out by just talking about our Veterans Day Assembly that we had last Tuesday. I've been here now 9 years, and I actually thought it was the best Veterans Day Assembly we had, minus one minor technical difficulty. I give Mr. Zetterstrom does an excellent job of putting it all together. The staff does a great job of working with the veterans when they come in and out of the classrooms. It's a great day for us. I know Mrs. Coe put on an excellent lunch, and a lot of other people behind the scenes do a great job with that. So I didn't want that to go unrecognized. And I thought the keynote speaker, Colonel Mannion, was probably the best one that we've had of the group. He just had a great message for everyone, and I thought that was very well done. Second thing I just want to mention is our preschool update. We currently have 11 students enrolled, which we're very excited about. We will have a preschool orientation night, meet the teacher night on December the 12th at 6 p.m. So we'll get that information out. Probably the best piece of news is the funding has already started to come in from the state. So I think that's one of the first times we've ever seen a program where the state is actually sending the money before the start date. So we're really excited about that. And last week I had the pleasure of sitting in with the playground committee. We had some of our students do presentations to some of the salesmen on what they thought would be the best playground for the preschool, which will be going up right behind Oxford Street, predominantly 3rd, 4th graders and a couple of 5th graders. I would have to say as superintendent, it's one of the proudest moments I've had. The kids were awesome. The adults in the room, meeting the administrators, and Ms. Gately was in the room. We said nothing. The kids did all the work. It was really, truly tremendous. So kudos to them. We have some winter concert coming up before, I think one of them is before our next meeting, which is the 6th, which is our chorus concert at 7 p.m. And on the 13th is our high school instrumental concert also at 7. Mr. Staples, I know you sent me the date for Oxford Street and 3rd Street concerts, but I didn't write them down, so could you remind me?
December
19. 5:30 for the 3rd, yeah, 5:30 and 6:30. All of you, I'm sure, already got the alert that we will have an early dismissal tomorrow with the pending weather. I hate to think that this is the beginning of a long winter. It's probably really early to be doing that, but the weather doesn't look good for tomorrow afternoon. So we err on the side of caution. Two last things. Had one board member ask for, and by policy, we should be providing staff attendance reports. That will go out beginning with the next packet. And then finally, we will reschedule the elementary and middle school conferences that are starting tomorrow, but we will start them on Friday and they will go through next week. And we do have an early dismissal also Wednesday for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Thanks, Chris.
That was my quick, brief report.
Questions? Under policy, can we get a motion on items 1 through 8?
Motion. Second.
Discussion? Brian, you want to highlight anything?
I don't know who highlighted the policies, but it was, it's welcome. I don't know whether it was you or Lorette.
It was Lorette. Yeah, Lorette should get all the credit.
Because she highlighted the areas that I had mentioned when I did the review, and John reviewed it too. And so changes were made. The only areas that were highlighted but not filled in are in 9200, orientation and training of board members. At the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2, there's a blank for the maximum number of members that can attend out-of-state functions. So we've got to pick a number. I don't know what the common, what an acceptable figure would be, but just highlighting that.
It's such a low frequency thing to begin with. Yeah.
Put 0 in. In 9250 expenses, just two things were highlighted. Travel payments can't be made, can't be authorized by the board after the event, and that if you travel out of state, a board member is obligated to prepare a report and give it to the full board.
Not just the board members, I actually have that circle too. It says board members, trustees, and employees shall provide within 1 week a brief report that includes appropriate but may not be limited to a description of the primary purpose for the trip, summary of the goals and key issues that were addressed at the event. And it goes on to say other stuff. So that would be, I would believe, staff members as well. Should we send them to a conference, they should come back and we want to provide that. I would like that provided to the board when that is turned in.
Well, this is on first reading still, so
Yeah.
once the,
No, I'm just throwing that. That's
once the
something else
policy's
to get.
adopted, right?
It would also apply to the Europe trip, right?
All of it. Any
Yeah.
trip that we approve and pay for, really.
And under ethics, there was a couple of optional asterisked provisions. It's 9271.
71.
Those are, if I can get to it, D and E. They're optional. The explanation is it's not a legal requirement, but so that would be up to the board to adopt on second reading.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Any questions on it?
There was one other one.
Marion?
9130, which is, you know, they didn't copy the first page, but it's about the committees. I think you pointed out, Brian, and it is different than what we do now. It says standing committees, paragraph B. So
Yep.
each committee's chairperson shall be selected by its members, which is different than how it's done now. Don't know if we want that or not, but
Lorette took care of it. I mean, I mentioned that our policy is to, or our practice is for the committees themselves to appoint the chairperson.
no,
Is that what you're
that's
talking
not-
about?
Yeah, but
No.
that has not been my experience.
It's been, the board president
The
has
board
been,
president
that's been
does
our
that.
past practice.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
why I said this is different than what we do now.
Oh, well, I'm relying on past practice.
So that's why I just wanted to point that out, that it is different, so I'm not sure which way we want to go.
Doesn't matter to
Very
me.
powerful position.
Doesn't matter to me.
Those are conflicting, by the way, 9121. It says in there, the election and duties of the president are to appoint committees and their chairpersons. And then 9130 says that
Conflicts.
committees appoint their own.
Doesn't matter.
Stay with past practice.
Stay with past practice.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's fine.
Okay.
I would also like to mention too, by the way, and I know Brian knows this, that if you look at the numbers that were on the 9300s, we're very close to having gone through the review that we've taken probably close to 3 years to update all of our policies that were not updated. So we have, I think it was maybe 5 more that will come out first reading.
Yep.
And then we plan to resubmit to see where we are, but we are, from when we did the last